the Church Bible. Again, that's Esther chapter 4, verse 8 to 16. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show to Esther and to explain to her. And he told him to urge her to go into the king's presence, to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then he instructed him to say to Mordecai, "All the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner circle without being summoned, the king has but one law, that he be put to death. The only exception to that is for the king to extend the gold scepter to him and spare his life. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king." When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: "Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to the royal position for such a time in this?" Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: "Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." This is the word of the Lord, and I invite Pastor Aaron.
Good afternoon, church. I am delighted today to introduce to you our speaker, Pastor David Choi. Pastor David ministers to a group of college students in the Rutgers, Princeton area, while also working with the local church in the area called Agape Revival Community Church. He is a lover of many things, one of which is an 80s show called Macross and anything related to it. Does anyone know what that is? No? All right, you can ask him later. But David and I have been friends for about 15 years now, and we knew each other since seminary. We used to study a lot together. It's really funny because he would come over to my apartment and we would study all day. And then at that time I had a PlayStation. And then right around like 3 o'clock we would get like really tired from studying, and so we'd be like, yeah, let's play Madden. And then we would play Madden, and then Connie would come home, and then she'd just look at us. She'd be like, "I just worked all day, and then you've been playing Madden?" So then this happened like a bunch of times, right? It's like we take that study break right as Connie is coming back. And then one day I'm like, "Yo, let's play Madden." He's like, No, man. I don't want your wife catching us playing Madden anymore. We studied too hard for this." And it was a moment, like, I found it really funny. I don't know why. But then, like, it also reminded me that he was a person of character, integrity. Not only did he want to do the right thing, but he always wanted to avoid the appearance of evil. So I appreciate him. He's a person that I respect a lot. So let's welcome Pastor David Choi.
No, yeah, I got it. Oh, I heard the mic. Thanks. All right. Hey, guys, just wanted to do a quick thank you, Pastor Aaron, for that introduction. Just to be more truthful, Aaron was the studious. Aaron's very hardworking, very organized, and very intelligent. So I kind of like leaned on him, I leashed off of him. I wasn't very studious. I was the youngest out of 3 boys, and usually in the Korean family, I'm Korean American, the youngest always gets the spoiled. The oldest works hard, the middle's kind of like the ignored child, he's kind of like confused, right? And then the youngest kind of gets spoiled, so I was spoiled. Both of my brothers went to Bronx Science High School. I didn't get in. I got into Brooklyn Tech, and I ended up in Tech. Literally, when I was in middle school, I just started connecting the I was like A to the B to the C. I didn't know what I was doing. I got into Brooklyn Tech. I was like, yeah, whatever, okay. I didn't even care. But yeah, so I wasn't really too studious, but yeah, I think I learned a little bit. I struggled a lot in seminary, but Aaron was always there to help me. The one thing I can say about him is I think Aaron is a very positive, very optimistic person. Knowing just personally, just been what he's been through in ministry, he's been through a lot of persecution, a lot of injustice. Yeah, but I feel he's never let that made him, like, you don't get that sense of jadedness. You know how if you work or at a company or you work some kind of factory and they treat you like, your manager treats you like dirt for life, you start having a bad outlook on life. You know, you start becoming very jaded and cynical, but Aaron's never been cynical. He's always been very optimistic, always caring. And even myself, sometimes I honestly, I was pretty nasty to Aaron, but, you know, he chooses not to engage in that, and he sidesteps it and tries to say positive things. So, you know, that's your pastor here. Okay, just for myself, I'm going to start out with a small clip video. I don't know if it's prepared. It's like a link from YouTube. It's actually a K-pop song from 2014. If you're into K-pop, you'll know who this is. If you're not into it, don't worry. It's all good. And then we're going to go into it. Oh, cool. Stand up here. Is there audio?
한편 서울의 지하철 공사는
cool.
강남과 강북을 연결해서 서울 중심가를 순환하는 이 호선을
아저씨,
비롯해 3호선,
좀만 가서
4호선 지하철이
내릴 거예요.
86년 아시안 게임과 88년 올림픽을 앞두고 공사에 박차를 가해 나가고 있습니다. 대대적인 경기 부양 대책을 실시하기로 한 정부 방침에 따라 김준성 부총재 기자회견에서 민간 국민을 위한 경제 활성화 대책을 발표했습니다.
All right, let's get the lights back on. Yeah, for those, just give you a little disclaimer here. It's not just a simple pop song about a love story between a boy and girl. You can see there's something else going on. It's a little confusing what's going on, but it's like based from 1980. A little history from actually South Korea, and this was during the time when a general, Chun Doo-hwan, he kind of overthrew the president at gunpoint. And basically, once he took over, like just like a coup d'etat, just like, you know, overtook, he basically put like martial law in place and like got rid of like democracy, you know. And just because of that, the freedom, people were really broken up to two groups. So like you see the boy there represented a little bit of, he was put into like military school at a young age, starting like 6th grade. And the girls, they were really trained to do like first aid, but they really had like segregated classes, seeing that like the boys there, they were able to get a higher education, do all the stuff, but the women at the time, this dictator here prevented, you know, just killed all the democracy. So on the outside, it looked like South Korea was like democratic, but it was kind of just like a puppet, you know, puppet government in place, and he was really in charge. And he basically said, yeah, no woman can go past like a high school education. So basically, what happened was the government basically categorized, right, two distinct groups, and they nicknamed them. They said one group is called the Doves. And these are the group that just easily surrender. They just kind of like ready to surrender to the troops. And the Hawks, who would not surrender and fight until their needs were met. And see, so the girl's family, she was from like, I guess her parents were from the Hawks. And basically, like they were not allowed to have radios in there. And so their family, you know, secretly was, you know, like listening to like radio broadcasts. They were like kind of banned in the country. But she, I think, snuck it out and put it outside and was listening to the boy. She was like having him hear the message, and I think they got caught. The family got caught, and then, you know, the army took her away. So, and basically, the writer of the song, he said he grew up at the time, and, you know, he's looking back, and he's kind of like in the, probably the safe group, and he wished he could have done more. He looked back with regret. He says, you know, like, I've just watched it happen, and it was kind of messed up, but I kind of felt like powerless, and I felt like, you know, there's nothing I could do. And, you know, he wished he could have done more, and he's looking at regret. While the girl, she's just like reflecting on what happened. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about just a passage in Esther. We read a story. How many here is familiar with the story of Esther in the Bible? Okay, awesome, awesome. So, you know, I'll just regurgitate a little bit about Esther. She won a beauty pageant. She was married to a king. I don't think the king kind of knew her background, that she was Jewish at the time. So forgive me if I make mistakes. I'm not as highly detailed or accurate. So if you call me out, I could be wrong. I'll undermine myself. But I think she had a cousin, right, who stood at the steps named Mordecai. And there was this one guy who was kind of like pretty powerful under the king, right? And his name was Haman. And basically, he walked by, and Mordecai wouldn't give him any kind of respect. So, you know, when he saw that, he got really kind of an ego trip, you know, a little like Donald Trump. You know, if somebody like kind of says anything number, he goes like on a Twitter blast and tries to, you know, destroy. So, well, yeah, whatever. But right, so this guy, he went to the king, and he plotted to like do a genocide. Let's just wipe out Mordecai's whole race of Jews. And basically, when Mordecai found out about this plot, he sent a secret note to Esther, who was the queen, and said, hey, you know what? You're the king's wife. You know, use your position. Your people are in trouble. And this is what she responded. She basically said, there's nothing I can do. Like, if I try to talk to the king, I could die. You know, if he doesn't reach out his golden scepter, I could die. So, you know, it's sort of out of my hands. And and basically, when Mordecai heard that answer, he was pretty upset. And basically, you know, he's kind of like a hawk, and she was acting like a dove. And he basically said, hey, you know what? Don't think you're safe. You know, if you don't help, right, God has put you in this position. But if you don't stand up and help, salvation will come from another place. And you're going to be in danger too. And you're going to be in trouble. And after that, then she said to Mordecai, okay, just wait and trust me, pray. And she came up with a plan. If you know the ending of the story, she came up with this very wisdom plan, right, to come into the king's presence and risk her life, and she saved her people. And basically, the reason why I want to share this story to you, but basically I planned this for the youth group. I thought I was speaking just to the youth. And when Aaron told me he's going to speak to the whole group, I'm like, wow, I'm kind of intimidated up here. I was like, adults scare me a bit. I don't know why. I'm just messing around. They don't scare me, but what scares me, I don't want to mess up for Aaron. You know, he's inviting me and make him look so bad. Then I'll be like, oh man, that's what I'm scared of. But yeah, you don't scare me. I don't really, you know, I don't really care as much. But I think, you know, growing up in a Korean American family. Myself, and right now I'm ministering to, like, as an interim, just to a small youth group while I do my college ministry, and they're out in the Princeton, West Windsor area, and their life, their circumstances, very highly academically competitive there. I mean, their life, it's all about school, so much about school, academic, and even all their extracurricular activity, it's all to circumvent, to really just raise up their, you know, their resume and, you know, so for college apps and everything, you know, even on Saturday, what do? You know, they'll do like orchestra, they'll do some volunteer work, and it's all for the academic. And it really, at this point, sometimes it gets to the point where it really affects even their Christian life. There are kids, right, they will not come out on Sunday if they have an exam on Monday. They will skip the Sabbath. And at that point, I look at the parents, because the parents are Christian, they're raising their hand, and these parents support it. And in a way, the kids, their faith is right at that point. They feel so overwhelmed by the pressure of the academic competitiveness, not only by their peers, but also their environment, their culture of their parents. When their parents say they can't go to church, they tell me they feel helpless. So because they're overwhelmed, they become indifferent. They just go, you know what, this is messed up, but that's life. This is my parents, and I just have to obey them. So I'm not going to go to church. And because they would say this, they say, what could I do? If my parents tell me don't go to church and study, if I speak out against them, is not that being rebellious? Doesn't the Bible teach us to honor your mother and father? This is exactly what Esther was saying. You get it? She's saying, I can't go into the king's court and defy the king. I'll die. It's disrespectful. There's nothing I can do. And while that's partial truth, I would say the kids are saying it is number one true. You should not disrespect your parents. I don't think anything would come of it if you rebel against your parents and say, no, screw you, I'm disobeying you, I'm going to church, because it will make your family life worse, and it will make life hard for you, and you'll have a lot of strife in your family. I don't think that's the solution. But at the same time, the other half, I don't think just doing nothing, I don't think that's biblical. And that's why I'm sharing this story and this illustration on purpose of the book of Esther. If you're a youth group student, if you're, I don't know Flushing, I don't know Bronx Science. Yeah, I heard the Spider-Man guy came in and he snuck in a class. Did you hear about that? The new Spider-Man in Bronx Science, didn't you hear? All right, the Spider-Man movie that's coming. Who's in science here? Raise your hand. No science. Bronx Science. Bronx Science. Who goes to Bronx Science? Anybody? Bronx Science? Yeah. Or did. Oh, okay. All right, science alum or whatever. Anyway, but I mean, this is a side story. I get sidetracked a little bit. But basically, the Spider-Man movie that's coming out, the star of that, he actually took classes at Bronx Science, and he just sat there. And people were like, "Who are you?" And he just kind of, like lied to them. He's like, "Oh, I'm just here, as an exchange program." And we're like, "We don't believe you. This is like a specialized high school. You don't just walk in like mid-semester." So then he said he told them the truth. He's like, "No, I'm Spider-Man." And they're like, "Get real. He's not Spider-Man." He's like, "No, for real, I'm Spider-Man. I'm Peter Parker." They're like, "No, you're such a liar." And then it came out on the newspaper. And people, "Oh my God, he was in my class." Anyway, whatever. All right. Why am I saying that? I'm just ruining it. Ooh, I just threw a little foam off. All right. Ooh. Okay. But all right, back to the story. But basically, it is not acceptable just to state the obvious. Say, "You know what? I'm powerless. My life is competitive. There's just so much little time left. Plus, my parents are saying, don't go to church on Sundays. Then I cannot go. I have nothing to do." I don't think that glorifies God. Obviously, I am not telling you here, let's call a rebellion and let's disobey your parents. But what can you do when you are stuck between a rock and a hard place, in a possible situation? And if you look to the story of Esther, this is what Esther did. She, at first, responded like many of our Korean American generations, many of my students did. Just, you know what? It's too overwhelming. There's nothing I can do. And yet when Mordecai said, "Man, that's wrong. That's not honoring to God," she changed and she did something. She used wisdom. She didn't disrespect or defy her parents, but she found a way to enter, with her faith, the presence of the king. And she made this nice feast for him and made him happy, and she won him over. And once she won him over, the king asked, "Hey, is there anything you want me to do for you?" And then boom, she stood up. She said, "Yo, this guy's screwing over I'm a Jew, and this guy's trying to kill my race." And the king got so mad, he put him to death, and they were saved, right? So, in a way, even for high school students, there is a way to honor God. There is a way to be academically competitive. There is a way to not disrespect your parents. And I'm not talking about parents that are like non-Christian. I understand like sometimes there are like maybe parents from like Buddhist background or just atheist background, and then when the kids come to church, sometimes they don't understand about God, so they're like, they're just being practical. They're not being unloving parents. They're just being practical. Say, "Hey, listen, you got to test the next day. I know you do your fun and games with your friends, but can you stay home and study?" I know it's even harder for them, but I'm even talking to people with Christian parents. Christian parents who just say, "You know what? Don't waste your time at church. Don't waste your time with Aaron. He's a fool." No, I'm not. No, I didn't. They're not saying that. They're not saying that, right? Oh, don't waste your time at Boone Church. What is Boone Church? Look at it. They don't even have a basketball court. What is this? They're taking forever building that building. No, I'm kidding. I'm making stuff up. It's like, stay home and study. Stay home and study. Like don't waste. But obviously they're not going to say it in front of the church's face because, you lose face, right? No one's going to say it. But even in that situation, I implore you to read this book of Esther and pray and consider using some wisdom. Use wisdom. And I told my kids at West Windsor, I said, that is not acceptable. I said, you cannot skip church. I said, if you're not Christian, I don't care, right? You're welcome to come. You're a seeker. Come and go as you want. But if you're a believing person and you honor God, you cannot miss Sunday. And then they go, whoa, what do I do? What do I do? Pastor Dave, what do I do? So I told them first, number one is usually, this is the number one reason a lot of kids end up not going to church on Sundays if they have a test Monday. Basically, it has to do with your first fruit, okay? You guys know about tithe. God's saying, you know what, I require from me to worship me with the first fruit of every single one of your increases, right? So basically, if you get $1, give God a dime, right? 10%, right? That's what we're taught, right? But a lot of people, what they do, they don't give God first fruit. What they do is they'll spend 90%, right? 90% of the dollar, right? And when they have 10% left, if they have anything left over, they'll give it to God. That's not first fruit. You know, so if I got $1, right, and I first set aside 10% to God, like a dime to God, and then I use that the rest of the dollar for me, that's called first fruit. But if I spend that $1, and then whatever I have left over, that dime, 10 cents is 10 cents, right? No, it's not. Not in God's eyes. And that's the problem where a lot of people get in trouble, okay? If the Lord's Day is important for your students. Your parents don't manage your time, like micromanage. They try, but you know you can watch YouTube fast. I have kids who watch, like, they watch The Flash, right? And they watch it on, like, 2 times speed. So they can go through it while they're doing their homework. They're, like, really nerdy, man. They, oh, yeah, yeah. And then everybody, all my friends do it. We watch it on 2 times speed so we can go through the dramas faster. They're, like, so efficient while they do it. So I know how they know how to waste time, okay? They're always going on the internet while they're chatting, doing the homework. But what ends up happening by the end of the week, right? They may not have enough time for their exam. And this is, they always tell me, oh, Pastor Dave, I studied so much. I was so busy this week. And you know what? I can't come to church tomorrow because I have a exam the next day and I just can't make it. And I just look at them. I go, you know what? I'm not going to tell you to flunk your exam at this point. But at this point, it's almost too late because you didn't give God your first fruit. You spent up all of your resource time, and then that little time you have left, you may give it to God, you may not. And this is their solution. They go, next time, I'm going to try to have better time management so I can come to church. That's usually what they say, and that's wrong. That's wrong. So I said, basically, what you're going to do, sorry, I know it's a condenser mic, yes, I always like to use regular mic. Basically, what you're saying is, I'm going to first use my 90%, and if I manage it right, then I might offer God 10%, or if I have if I spend up 95% of my resources, then I'll give God 5%. I said, you know what, you're thinking all wrong. It's not about time management. You didn't set aside that first 10% for God. I said, whether you fail this exam or not, or you waste time or not, it should not have any kind of consequence for your time with the Sabbath. And that's a radical thinking. They were like, wow, I never thought of it that way. And I said, if you just set that time up first, then you can manage your time where you want. And it doesn't matter whether you waste time and work diligent or you fail. It should not affect the Lord's Day. But because you put the Lord's Day at a conditional spot where if you fulfill all your academics and your responsibility, then you go to church, that's where you're not honoring God. And they're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. And I said, I'm going to also help you guys out. I'm going to do a seminar for the parents. And the other thing that's on top of their academics, in the area, this is very unusual. Every place I've been to, like Asian churches, even Korean churches, they have this thing called Chinese school. Anybody go to Chinese school? Or Korean school, right? Normally, traditionally, they will have Chinese school like Saturday morning, right? Not this area. It's so weird. This area, they do it Sunday afternoon. So these guys are stressing out. You know, when they come to church, they're like, not only do they have their weekend homework Monday, but they have Chinese school right after church. It's so messed up. I'm telling you, I know, I feel empathetic. So there's times where they don't even come to church because they didn't do their Chinese homework. And they stay home doing the Chinese homework. And I said, why are you skipping the Lord's Day? It says, because we pay $400. We can't lose that $400. You know, church, we could just go next week. We go all the time. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, this is a myth. This is a myth about, you know, I want to go into a little bit about the Sabbath. I know we're going away from the indifference part right here. This is a myth that people say. You know what? I hear a lot of youth pastors and pastors say, you know what? Your God or your idolatry is the thing you spend your most time with. They always say that. That's not true. That is absolutely not. So they say, oh, you spend so much time in video games. Oh, you should be praying or reading the Bible, right? Because that's your God, where you spend the most time. That is not absolutely true, okay? If that was true, then sleeping would be my God, or taking a leak or shower, because I do that more than I pray or read the Bible. It is not true, okay? There are some people who work 9 to 5, right? And work is not their God. They always honor God. This is what's important. Okay, it's not the amount of time you spend with God, but whatever time you segregate to God, when it comes into a conflict with something else, whatever wins over, that's usually your God. Okay, or that's usually your idol, or it's more important. All right, I'm going to give you an example for those of you that want a boyfriend or girlfriend or have a relationship. Okay, I have all these different type of friends. Okay, I got this one guy friend, right? He got a girlfriend. And Friday night, his girlfriend makes plans with him. Say, hey, I want to have dinner with you and then go watch a movie. He's like, sure. But then his boys come around, right? And they go, yo, we want to hang out Friday night. We want to go karaokeing, right? We go, right? There's this place called Stuff Your Face by Rutgers, right? There's like bar play. They want to go there. This is what he does. He goes to his girlfriend and he goes, hey, honey, I'm with you all the time, but I need to go out with my guy friends, so next time. Yo, you know this guy, right? This guy, obviously, you know his boys are important to him, right? And he justifies it. He's like, well, I'm with her all the time. But I always tell him, hey, you make plans with her first. And he's like, no, it's okay. I'm like, man, good luck. On the other hand, okay, I got this other, another friend. It's the same thing. You know what? Anytime he'll make friends with his friends, right? He'll like, oh yeah, I'm definitely free Thursday. And then his girlfriend goes, hey, I want to go out Thursday. He cuts us off. He ghosts us. He doesn't even text us. He's like, and then afterwards we're like, what happened? He's like, I was with my girlfriend. She called me out. He said, but you made plans with us. And he's like, sorry, man. You get what I'm saying, right? It's the same thing, your relationship with God. If you set a time out, God will never be stupid, all right? God's never going to say, you know what, during the workday of the week, I want you to cut your job, cut school, and go worship me. He'll never do that. You know what he said? He said, the earth is, and everything in it is yours, okay? Everything. You can eat from all the tree in the garden, but you must not eat from that one tree. Remember that covenant he had with Adam and Eve? He's saying the same thing. He says, you know what? You have 7 days a week. I just want 1 hour. Set aside for me 1 or 2 hours. Can you do that for me? And then the rest of the week is for yours. But we can't even do that. We suck at that. We can't set aside. You know what? If something interferes with that 1 or 2 hours, sometimes we cut it. We cut God short. Because we don't value it. I give you that time conflict. I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you another illustration about value. When we talk, you know what? Because we're Asian, we value these things. So we'll understand this illustration. It's kind of, that's controversial between, your boyfriend and your friends. That's kind of, you can argue it from both sides. But this one you can't argue. On Saturday, if you got the SATs, right, in the morning, and one of your boys calling you out, even your girlfriend calls you out, and say, hey, let's go hang out, let's get breakfast, let's go watch a movie. You going to go? No. You're going to say, because why? I spent like 4 hours preparing for this one exam. I'm not going to mess with that time, and I ain't going. Somebody did that? Wow, you crazy, okay? All right. But why? Because your parents and your culture taught you that education's so important. Imagine if you treated the Lord's Day like your SATs. Nothing would be able to interfere with your time with God. You know that QT in the morning? All right, look, if you're a doctor or you're an NFL player and you play on Sundays to work, okay, I'm not trying to say Sunday is the only day of Sabbath. Okay, let's talk about your morning devotion time. If God said in the beginning of the day, I want you to set aside just 10 minutes, an hour for me, reading the Bible, okay? No, some people are on call. I want to be realistic. Some people can't make it Sunday. I'm not preaching against you, okay? I am just talking about your heart. It's your heart that's important, not the actual day, right? Because we're going on the Roman Greco calendar. Last time I heard the Sabbath was on a Saturday, right? For Jewish people, and then we made it Sunday. So that's subjective, right? But just for now, whatever you establish in your heart, let's say in the morning, if you start reading your Bible and you get a text, are you going to look at it? Are you going to take a phone call? If you're praying and your wife calls you, are you going to pick up your phone? You have to, right? Oh my God, it's my wife. Oh, it's my boyfriend. Oh my God, it's my mom. I better, right? When you set that timer for God, you will not. You will not. If you honor that time as you did your work or your SATs or your education, you will not. You will wait till that 15 minutes is over or that hour or whatever time, and then you would call back. Okay, if Obama called you, would you put on hold? Oh, yo, my boy's calling. Hold on, Obama. No, you're not, right? He's like inviting you to no, because you know the President of the United States is a powerful person, and you honor him, and you'll tell your other lesser people because you understand value. You know what? God is more important than the President of the United States. His time matters. But if you demean that, take it for granted. So I want to tell you, this is an example of, you know that time with Esther when high school kids were asking me, well, what do I do? You know what? If I have to study the next day, my parents are telling me, you know, don't go to church. What do I do? And I told them, if you set this up and honor God, even your parents you won't be at a point where you're rebelling against parents. But right now you're behind the 8 ball. It's at this point, you know what? It's okay, there's grace. You screwed up, and you might have to eat the consequences, and maybe you're going to have to skip church this week, or maybe you're going to have to fail the test. I don't know. Your choice, or you're going from a B to a C. I don't know, because you didn't put in time. At this point, it's really hard to choose. But I'm just saying there's grace. And I'm very gracious. I let the kids go. But at a point, they have to choose. And you know what? People say this. They always put off things. That, this rock and a hard place, indifference. They go, sometimes following God, it's so overwhelming. I'm just going to let life and circumstance just dominate me so that I can't worship. I have a lot of parents, right, that always tell me, they're like, oh, Pastor, when our kids go off to college, we're going to really serve the Lord. And I just look at them, and obviously I don't laugh in their face because I have to honor them, I work with them, and I go, no, you're not. And then I go, you know what, when we retire from my job, I'm so busy, that's when I will serve the Lord. And I look at them, I go, no, you're not. And the kids say to me too, they're like, you know what, when I get to college and I'm out of the house and I go away from my parents and I'm stressed, that's when I'll start to go to church faithfully. I'm like, no, you're not. And when people are in their finals and in senior, in undergrad, they go, you know what, when I graduate and start working, that's when I'll start really getting focused on church. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. If you have that mindset, okay, it's really you really playing this game. You're playing this game that my friend would tell me. He says, you know what? He says, what if I just screwed up my life and just went rampant and just destroyed everybody, and right before I die, I just said, God forgive me. Will I go to heaven? Is it possible, technically possible? Will I go to heaven? And you know what I said to him? I said, technically yes. Technically yes. I'm not sure, if only God knows your heart, but technically yes. That's why we do prison ministry. You know why? It's proven in the Bible. When Jesus died, there was 2 criminals next to him, right? They didn't follow Christ at all. One guy was mocking him. One guy said, Lord, will you remember me, right? When you get into heaven. He says, I tell you the truth. Today, you will be with me in paradise. Boom, like that. Right before he died, he got saved. So it's possible you can just waste your whole life and just screw up and take advantage of it. And we know that in the back of our head because we know grace. And just at the last second, we could just say, Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'll come back to you. Because we know that God is so gracious, we kind of do that pseudo, right? We go, you know what? I'm going to bend it. You know what? I know, God, you're a forgiving God, so I'm going to waste my time now and do me, right? And then maybe after my exam or maybe after college, then I'll come back to you and ask you forgiveness, and I know you'll forgive me. You get what I'm saying? But I'm telling you, if you think like that, it is possible. But man, you're missing out. And I'm telling you, at that moment, it's not honoring to God. It's not honoring to God. Okay? I challenge you in your hardship not to fold, not to justify, not to start thinking about tomorrow is easier, I'll do it then. I challenge you to be like Esther. I challenge you, even that song, to be like a hawk. Well, not to rebel against your parents and to start destroying your family, but to put your faith into practice and use some wisdom and fight. And fight. Fight. You know what I love doing? I'm not that smart, so I can't back it up. Because my home church is actually Taiwanese. And I learned this in I don't know if it's true in Cantonese culture or, other mainland China, but I know this is true in Taiwan. Taiwan, they said the way the school system is you gun for the top schools. And if you can't get in, you end up going to a Christian school and becoming a pastor. No, this is true. This is separate from America. And it said, so culturally the parents will tell their kids, no, this is cultural. This has nothing to do with God. This is cultural, or nothing to do with the U.S. They tell the kids, don't try to be a pastor, because that's like copping out. So you know what Taiwanese have to do to really minister to people? It's ridiculous, but this is what they have to do. They have to go get a PhD, go to med school, work for people, and then resign, and then become a pastor. That's how they get respect, because they know how the school system goes there. They think about it lowly. So all the parents say, no, my kids, no, you better not go to seminary, you better not go into ministry, don't even think about it. You better be thinking top, doctor, lawyer, engineer, right? And something like that. Maybe you could be a computer programmer, right? That's like mid-tier, right? Maybe, right? Some of you are like, oh man, right? What am I, man? Working at GameStop, damn it, right? Oh, I don't know. I'm just kidding, right? I don't know. Don't worry, right? I'm a pastor. Look at that. How lowly is that, right? So, but you know what? Because they have my mindset, culturally, a lot of my Taiwanese friends, they want to serve the Lord, but because culturally it's looked down upon, and they have this pressure of like not losing face with their family. They don't want to look like a bum. And they have that pressure. And they tell me, what should I do? And a lot of them, sometimes, they succumb to the pressure. They become like Esther, her first response. You know what? Yeah, I know I want to serve God, but, you know, it's not realistic. So I'm going to do what my parents and my culture tells me. And they end up becoming doctors. And they never do anything. They go, well, I'll serve God later. You know? But I said, you know what? You could be a doctor. Do it the Taiwanese way then. Go gun for it if that's what God's calling you, and then maybe retire and go serve the Lord if that's a route. But you know, but some of them, they're not doing it to really do it for ministry. They're just saying, you know what, I'd rather just not think about it. I don't want to think about it. It's too stressful. I'm going to become indifferent, and I'm gonna it's just. You know, like Esther, you know what, it's just out of my hands. I don't want to think about it. That's what she's saying. You know, her whole race is going to get destroyed. And she's like, I don't want to think about it. It's too dangerous for me. It's too big of a risk. Okay? You know, I'm just saying, if you're Taiwanese here, you know, if you're a parent here, I don't know if you, but it's kind of different in America. Yo, the seminaries here are really hard, man. They kick your butt. I don't know, Aaron can tell you, right? Gordon was pretty hard. It was hard for me. I don't know if maybe it was a cakewalk for you. But we had some pretty smart guys at Gordon, right? Remember Bobby the lawyer? And you had those guys from OCM, your friends, the Hoes, remember the family? Jason Ho and his wife, right? Yeah, really smart people out front. But here it's a little bit different, so the mindset's different. You got actually pretty honorable. It's really competitive here, but unlike Taiwan. But I don't know if you can convince the Taiwanese culture that. But I want to say this: youth group. This has nothing to do with Sundays. Maybe this is your spiritual life. I know sometimes, even in youth group, you could be frustrated that maybe nothing's happening in youth group, or things are so bad. And a lot of times, when things are like overwhelming, you feel powerless. A lot of times, it's easy to just go on autopilot and say, you know what, I know no matter what happens, nothing's going to change. And sometimes you go, I just give up. I'm just going to zone out. I'm just going to come to church because my parents make me go to church and just wing it for 4 years, and then I'm out of here. And then I want to challenge you not to have that. Not to check out. Not to be like Esther and be overwhelmed. Don't, have some faith. Have some faith, even if the odds are overwhelming. If you're in that situation. For socially, this is my kid's problem, and I want to close with this. Okay? And I know this is a lot of youth illustrations. I have a lot of indifference to people in schools who are losers. So basically, we have a couple of kids in our group who are really socially, really awkward. And they get made fun of at school. So basically what the church dynamic is, at church, these guys would greet these guys. But at school, they would ignore them because they're a bunch of losers. And these are the type of kids who sit at the lunch table, right? And they sit alone and nobody's talking to them. And these church kids, they feel bad, the popular ones. And they're like, I feel so bad. I think I should go over and talk to this person. But what do? They go, I feel bad for a moment, but I'm just not going to think about it. Indifferent. It's just too much. because this, I have to really maybe uproot my whole social circle to just talk to them and ruin my rep or whatever. It's just so awkward. Or you know what? I'm not an outgoing person. I'm very quiet myself, and that person's awkward. Maybe someone else can do it, and that person constantly gets ignored. For like 4 years throughout the whole youth group, this person gets ignored, and it's fake. Everybody knows it's so phony. When we go around, how we did the greeting, like I love you. They would do that. They go, I love you in Christ, but I ignore you during the week. It's such a fake, phony love. And you know what? They know it's wrong, but you know what they do? They just keep doing it. Why? Because they're in that situation, Esther. They go, it's so overwhelming. It's too much work. I just don't want to think about it. I want to challenge you. If you have people, it might not apply. I don't know the kids around here, but my group really has that strong, and we had to really make a conscious effort. And I told, especially the seniors, I said, you know what? This week I challenge you to go to one kid in the lunch table and sit with them. Sit with them. Just sit and just say hi. And the seniors go, oh, but what do we talk about? It's kind of creepy, That guy's into anime, and Macross. That's me, right? That's me, right? He's into Funko. No, I don't want to start going on you, man. Oh, right? But, it's like, I have nothing to talk about. It's so awkward. And I told him, just say hi and sit down. Just sit down. But when you start to do that, it starts to change the youth group into sincerity. Because if the oldest kids do it, then the younger kids catch on. And you start breaking these selfish cliques. These unspoken, hidden things. When people get ignored and we say we love each other in Christ, and it's all phony when it's not really happening. And you're indifferent. You just sit there, you watch it happen, and you just kind of just eating your popcorn, watch the drama, right? Yeah, what about gossip, right? When people talk trash about other people, it's wrong. And you might hear your parents talking trash about another family. Maybe you're talking trash about, or you see this girl getting trashed on, right? Right? And what do? If you just sit there and listen and go, oh, it's overwhelming, there's nothing I can do. It's not right. Take a stand. I'm giving you the Mordecai message. Get up and reach out. Maybe end the gossip somehow. Think about those things, right? Love. All right, well, that's the end of my message, right? It's so fragmented and broken. I hope I didn't embarrass you too much, right? It's like, screw it up. But I want to close out in a word of prayer. And during this time, I would like to ask you in your heart, if you can reflect personally. I'm not going to ask anyone to stand or anything, but just in yourself, wherever you're at. If you're an adult and some things just bounced on you. Maybe you absorbed about setting the Lord's Day. You have trouble doing that. Maybe it's time. Maybe if you want to be challenged to really come and make that something that you want to just set aside for God. For high school students, I don't know what kind of things you're facing in difference. I'm just sharing what my group's going through. Whether it's maybe talking to people who are unpopular, or maybe your academics is overwhelming too. And maybe God's coming, being faithful to God and committed to your youth group is hard for you. I don't know, whatever it is. I just want you to pray and say, God, help me to have wisdom. Help me to hear Mordecai's advice to Esther. Help me not to just lay down and just give up. And, don't use, I don't want to be rebellious or I don't want to rock the boat as an excuse. We know that's wrong, and we don't want to ask you to dishonor your parents or rock the boat, but we're asking you to at least have wisdom and come in faith. So let's pray. Lord, as we come to you for the next 30 seconds, we ask you would help us, each of us, in our own circumstance. If we're facing a situation that Esther faced, and we're stuck between a hard rock and a hard place, would you first give us the courage to have faith and hope? And number two, when we do step out in our faith, would you give us wisdom? Would you give us wisdom in our troubling situation, Lord? We thank you for this time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend David, for the message. If y'all may rise. For those of us